What you have here is the ILP for SBS, and at the bottom first note that there are several tabs. The GEULR as compared to the GE Otter model, which is the most important part in terms of deciding which catalog year you should be in. And they have each a corresponding schedule. So this schedule is corresponding to that schedule and this to this schedule. So let's look here at how the students would fill it in and how the faculty would use it. This then represents the first tab, and it's possible that students might not be entering anything in this particular tab because they're in this model. Either way, the information on each is identical except for this area right here, the GE part. So they would start by filling in their last name, their first name. The type of student they are is a drop-down. The year they initiated is a drop-down. Projected grad date, also a drop-down. They would just go and select, for instance, like so. And the concentration is also a drop-down. Here, since there are so many, they would type it in. And once they have done this initial part, let's go ahead and use it. This information automatically goes and it fills into a couple of other areas, but first of all, it goes to the master. So because I typed those in, this information is coming from that tab, right? And this is where you would potentially want to look to see the most significant information at one glance. And let's go back and look at how else it automatically fills in. It automatically fills in here the name, so that each time you have a tab open, you would be able to see their name appear. So notice there's no name typed here, and therefore there's no name appearing here. And in the master sheet, you can see the Otter model is not being used, so the name is not appearing on that sheet. Other items to note that were decided upon is that the students would be typing in the course name here and the course number, and they would be having to make a decision on whether something double counts. Let's say that it does double count. Once they hit yes, it's automatically going to turn red. So that could be a heads up to everyone. That would determine whether potentially they would only be able to put a 0 for it because it's double counting for something else, or a 4. Other items that they have to choose from are if it's a major or minor or an upper or lower division class. And here they would also be picking those sorts of things. For each particular class that they list out, they would also choose what semester. Okay, so let's say that they put Spring 12, they take it at CSUMB, or potentially they're transferring those credits in from a 2-year institution, let's say in the summertime. And after they've taken the class and what grade they got, so they would be filling in all this information for you here. And in this area is where you would have the chance to validate whether it's true or not. If you determine that this class doesn't count for one reason or another, maybe it's because the grade wasn't high enough, then they would click no, and that would be an alert to everyone that they would need to pay attention to this particular course and take it again or work something out. Here's where the faculty member would date it and put their initials. Again, these are going to be protected areas. And then over here, other things that can happen are repeated grade or an adjustment of some kind, maybe the double count, or it's been fulfilled through assessment. So if that is true, then the faculty member would be checking it here. Then the faculty member would date, sign off, and then one other area that students wanted to input was an audited course, and so we have the chance to select X there. And the way this also works is as students are adding up their units, let's say they take another class for 4 units and another, you can see that it's automatically totaling those amounts right here. And how this is corresponding to everything else, it's automatically adding down here, so towards 120 units. And it's a lower division type class, so it's adding here as well. So once the student fills out all this information in the row, then it autofills into this particular sheet to show when those classes are being taken. So this is going to list out anything selected for Spring 12 community participation, how many units. So this is like an area where students could see how the classes fall into a schedule. And this is listing out all the semesters and automatically adding totals. And items that fill in this tab, if they're in the otter model, will then automatically populate into the corresponding sheet for that set of students. Another sheet that was determined to be very important was that students would fill in any substitutions that they're expecting to have decided upon for whatever reason, and they would just hand type those items in here and bring this to the attention of the faculty member, and the student would comment here and the faculty member here if there are special concerns. This particular sheet was devised because there are need for some approvals during certain time periods. And here's another sheet that could potentially capture a lot of communication that would have taken place by email. This sheet in particular is meant to help keep track of the students' progress in terms of the annotated bibs. So the students would write down how many pages they have done to date every time they enter, how many pages are remaining, and potentially if the student is keeping their annotated bibs in a spreadsheet, this is where you could potentially do a quick look at their annotated bibs in one place. To keep track of the capstone proposal, a link to their e-portfolio, everything could be in one handy place for students so that you can evaluate them with a couple clicks. And we have here a link to the catalog, and as soon as I'm done with this video, we're going to place a link right here into the ILP. Let's imagine students have filled out the information in here and they're ready to communicate and get approval for certain courses. They would then go up to File, and they could email collaborators. And the faculty members who are their advisors would appear here, and so they would select or deselect according to who they would want to interact with them and type this message. And then they would hit Send. If somebody is not invited to the spreadsheet that should be on it, then they would hit File Share, and here's the list of all the people who are automatically on the sheet. Some are editing right at this point. They would just type in and find somebody's email, and they could give them different privileges. They could say maybe just view or allowed to edit, and here's where they would select a message, something like that, and share and save. And also important to hit Done. And those are the main features of the ILP so far.